Hello and welcome. On behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission and our regional arts partners, thank you. Your support is so very important to the arts right now, and we deeply appreciate each and every one of you for dedicating your time, energy, and valuable experience to this process. We couldn't do this without you. You are what makes our grant funding process fair and transparent. And who better to determine who should receive public funds than you and your amazing peers, the public? I am Paige Sharp, Deputy Director of Programs for the Indiana Arts Commission, and I am here today to orient you to our panel process for fiscal year 2022. If you have any questions during this presentation, please jot them down and reach out to your regional partner or program contact. They are here for you, and they want to help. First, let's start with who we are. The Indiana Arts Commission is your state arts agency, and for over 50 years, we have worked to bring public funds for the arts back to the public to positively impact the cultural, economic, and educational climate of Indiana. We provide grants to arts organizations, arts providing organizations, and artists, and provide educational opportunities like the annual Indiana Arts Homecoming Conference. We couldn't do what we do and provide great access and service to all counties of our state without our 11 regional arts partners. These dedicated partners help us bring arts to everyone and are the arts touchstones for each of their multi-county regions. So let's get you set up for paneling. Number one, and as soon as you can, respond to emails from your regional partner or program contact, particularly when asked to complete the conflict of interest form. Now, this is super important. Review all the applications you're assigned by 2 business days before the panel. I don't just randomly highlight things in pink, y'all. We really need you to do this. So we are fully prepared for panel day, which will be via online through Zoom. And when you have questions, trust me, I have asked every question possible. It took me like 50 years to understand in kind, for example, and I'm still learning new things about reading financial statements. So please reach out with questions, truly. And remember, you're awesome. We asked you to be a panelist for a reason. We know you want to be the best panelist you can be, so let's help you do just that by first talking about bias. Explicit bias is our attitude about something that we're aware of, and we're upfront about it. Like, I love cats, and I'm explicit about loving cats. I would say, oh, I love cats when I meet a new one. But implicit bias, now that one's really sneaky. We're not even aware of our implicit biases, but guaranteed they exist. Did you know our brain naturally makes shortcuts to process all of that information coming at us all the time? It's so we can respond more quickly. We need to in order to survive. Our brain makes links really fast from our past experience. We develop expectations, and when things don't match our expectations, we unconsciously respond. In the image here, what does this lady do for a living? If you immediately thought nurse, meet your implicit bias. She's a doctor. Biases are normal, and they can be positive or negative. So why are we talking about implicit bias? And I could say from personal experience, it's because it shows up in the panel process. And I'll show you what I mean. We're going to be reading lots of applications. Think about your preferences. Mine, for example, is visual arts. I studied painting and I love art museums. What's that mean? That means I am hands down biased towards liking art museums. And I'm very aware of that. So I need to be very self aware when evaluating an application from an art museum. Can I be objective? Yes. I just need to remind myself, Paige, focus on the criteria. How are you approaching this? Are you layering your own expectation onto the applicant? Are you being overly generous because you love the exhibitions they're talking about? Or overly harsh because they're doing something you wouldn't do? Here's another example. A video is submitted in the application and it's so choppy. Oh my goodness, you roll your eyes. You say to yourself, I would never submit a video like that. Okay, well, maybe you wouldn't, but you're not the applicant that's running 14 programs, raising 2 kids, and has to write the application at the library because the internet's so bad. Focus on the big picture. Here's another common thing we see, the halo or pitchfork effect. This is really common when a panelist brings prior knowledge of the applicant to the table. I once had a panelist say, I love this organization. Their performance last year that I went to was stunning. She gave them a 100% score, despite they're not answering one of the primary narrative questions worth 25 points. Conversely, we've had panelists give an application of score of like 20 out of 100, while on the same panel, the rest of the panelists gave an application of score well above 80. We know there's something going on when we see that. Another example of this effect is when one statement in the application impacts how you see the rest of the application, good or bad. So be self-aware. That's your biggest tool for this toolbox. And remember, you are here to evaluate the application only, not your experience with the applicant, the actual application. I know that can be really hard sometimes, but it's super important. It's why we're having this conversation today. If your own bias is clouding your review, cite a conflict of interest. And that means for good or bad. Okay, here's the last one, and it's super common. First, let's be clear. If the application has a lot of misspellings and syntax errors, or the directions aren't followed very well, yeah, it can be distracting, but it's not something to evaluate because it's not in the criteria. Remember your tools in the toolbox, being self-aware, and to be a great panelist, be an arts advocate, a cheerleader. We're not here to vilify applications or applicants. We're here to support, lend expertise, and recommend where applicants can improve to meet the criteria. Not everyone's a great grant writer, but that doesn't mean the organization isn't doing great things or can't put on a great project. There are a lot of amazing art people just wanting to make a difference in their community and could be writing the application for the first time. And like them, we all started somewhere. Now that you're all well versed in bias, it's the perfect time to go over conflict of interest. If you haven't already completed this form, then complete it as soon as you receive it. If you have a conflict, you'll cite it on that form. You will not be reviewing those applications. Here's a rule of thumb. If you cannot objectively evaluate an application using the criteria, cite a conflict. If you're not sure, talk to your program officer. But in general, the most common conflicts and the ones we definitely need you to cite are if you have a direct financial relationship with the applicant, are a member of the governing board or policy committee, are, say, the auditor of the applicant, or certainly an employee or consultant or major collaborator. Those are the biggest ones. Now that you've got a kind of a broad understanding, I want Deanna to come in and walk you through the online system so you're fully prepared for panel day.
Today we're going to be going over the online system, also known as Foundant. Your regional arts partner will provide you with your login information. If you are a new panelist, you'll be provided an email and temporary password and will be prompted to create your own password upon logging in. If you are a returning panelist or have applied for grants in the past, you can use your existing login information. Once logged in, you will see in the upper right-hand corner, if you are an applicant, you have multiple roles. You want to make sure you have selected the panelist role. On the left-hand side of the screen, there is a home icon. If at any point you would like to come back to your dashboard, which would be this screen, you can click that home icon. Below, you will see all of the applications that have been assigned to you for reviewing and your status. If you take a look at this list and notice that there is an organization you think you may have a conflict of interest with, please reach out to your regional arts partner so that can be removed. But based on the conflict of interest form provided, there shouldn't be anything listed in there that you have a conflict with. To begin reviewing, you'll click the red pending icon on the right-hand corner. Once you're in the system, you will be viewing the evaluation form on the left and the application on the right side by side. Anything that is listed in blue is going to be a link that you can click on both in the evaluation and in the application. Anything listed in green is a note, and you'll see that throughout the application and throughout the evaluation form. Applicants were provided the evaluation criteria when they were applying, and we have sectioned out the evaluation form and the application into the sections. So you will see artistic quality corresponds with the artistic quality, artist benefit. So the questions that you are evaluating are clearly outlined both in the application and in the evaluation. There is a scoring guide for you to use, so how you should score an application or question based on the criteria. For each section, when you enter a score, you'll also be asked to provide comments to support the score given. The system will autosave, so at any point, if you were to click on one of these, click into the box, type something, click out of the box, it will autosave. But at the very bottom of the form, there is also a save button that you can click. Another quick tip to be aware of is how to view documentation and links provided in the application. So as you scroll down on the right-hand side, you will notice there are sections where a document is requested to be uploaded. If you click on the little I to the right of the link, this will open the document viewer. To the left-hand corner of that viewer, you can see how many pages there are, and you can go forward and backwards through the different pages. If something was scanned in sideways, you also have the ability to rotate different directions. If it's super tiny, you can zoom in and zoom out. And if you just wanted to look through all the artistic examples or any other uploaded documents, they're all in a list here on the right, so you can just click on to the next one as well, and that will bring you into the next document that was uploaded. And again, you can go through the different pages that were provided, rotate if needed, zoom in and zoom out. You can close out by either clicking the little X at the top or the close button at the bottom right. Also, scrolling down, there are sections where we ask individuals to provide links. If you click on the little globe to the left, that will open the link that was provided for you. If an applicant has included a link in the narrative box, you cannot click on the text within the narrative box. You would have to copy and paste it into a new tab in your browser. If you prefer to have applications printed out in front of you versus on the screen for reviewing, you can click this application packet in the upper right-hand corner. To do so, it'll generate a PDF that you can download and save and print. So again, to go back to your dashboard, you're going to click on that home icon. You can click in and out of applications while you review and return at any point in time. As you begin reviewing, this will turn green and no longer be red, tell you how many questions you have left to review and your status. If at any point you would like to click back in and change a score or finish scoring, all you simply have to do is click on that red icon, or if it's in progress, it'll be kind of a green bar, and it will turn into a green check mark when it's done. And so just because you're done reviewing, you can still go back in and adjust scores and comments as needed once you've finished reviewing, even though it will show a green check mark for you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your regional arts partner, or if you have any technical questions about the online system, feel free to give me a call or an email. That information is also provided to you by your regional arts partner.
Welcome to the world of paneling the IAC Arts Organization Support Grant Program during a pandemic. Get ready for a very unusual ride. If you've paneled with us before, you'll notice it's very different than what we've done in the past. From guidelines and application to the review process as a whole, we've pandemified our program, so buckle up and pay close attention. Before we start mucking around in the big picture and details, let me first assure you, we've given this a lot of thought, and we provide clear guidance for you directly in the online system. When it comes to evaluating, just use your experience, best judgment, and IAC guidance to evaluate and provide your assessment of each application. But let's start with a quick overview of the program. The Arts Organization Support Program, or AOS as it's frequently called, provides annual operating support for the ongoing artistic and administrative functions of eligible arts organizations. If you're reviewing it, it is eligible for review. And funding is based upon the size of the organization's revenue, so you won't see requests for a specific award amount. So let's talk about our AOS program in a pandemic. I don't have to tell you how important arts organizations are to the fabric of our communities. You're an AOS panelist. You get it. You know the incredible impact the pandemic has been to the arts community. They've been striving to survive, reinventing, adapting, or even hibernating. IEC has reinvented and revisioned to meet the current and continuously changing needs of our sector and state. And such, we've adjusted our AOS program. We've streamlined it. We focused it on what's most important right now, and that's to responsibly support arts organizations because they, in and of themselves, are the public benefit, not just what they do. We want to see them make it to the other side. We need them. And we also realized in talking with so many colleagues, organizations, and our regional partners, some organizations are doing incredible things despite a pandemic. It's truly inspiring and warrant recognition. So we integrated that into our revisions as well. So what does that mean? Enter the new evaluation process, a focus on resiliency and a focus on extraordinary effort. You'll review applications in two distinct areas for operating support, using that resiliency, and the merit award consideration, which is optional for applicants this year. Heads up, each has its own review process. On panel day, your panel will first discuss and make recommendations for operating support based upon the panel's resiliency assessment, and then discuss the merit section. I'll provide more detail here in a bit, but I do want you to know that it's important to the Indiana Arts Commission that we support our organizations during this critical time. Our primary concern is if the organization demonstrates a level of resiliency that you're confident it will be operating during the fiscal 2022 cycle, which begins this July 1st and runs through June 30th of 2022. We cannot predict the future, but we can gauge likelihood. Again, we're here to support and help ensure these valuable assets are here for the long haul. And fret not, we have all kinds of processes in place to address compliance issues, significant budget changes, and whatever might come up prior to contract and during the grant period. Here's how you'll evaluate organizational resiliency. You're evaluating the extent to which the organization demonstrates it is operating and will continue to operate during the funding period. In blue, you can see IAC requires what applicants should demonstrate at minimum for funding, like holding regular board meetings, conducting planning, and advancing the art form. This may look kind of woe in slide form, but trust me, it's pretty simple. Most of the application questions are multiple choice, and they directly align with the evaluation form. There are only two limited character space narrative questions. Remember, I promised a streamlined process, not out of focus on simplicity, but focus on what's important right now. You were selected to be an AOS panelist for a reason. You have valuable experience and understanding as a result of that experience, which leads me to the next slide. Prior to panel day, you will be reviewing each application on your own. You'll first evaluate it for resiliency and then merit. For resiliency, we're using a no, do not recommend for funding, yes, recommend for funding, or recommend for funding with required modifications. That means in the evaluation form, you'll literally select yes, no, or yes with required modifications. Now, If you recommend yes with required modifications, you will recommend what the applicant will need to provide the IAC in order to be eligible for funding. Now, don't freak out. We provide guidance directly in the form by including a list of options you can check. You'll also tell us what your concern is and what would address that concern. So here's the good news. We'll take all the preliminary reviews from panelists and create a summary to help with panel day, where you and your super smart peers will come together and decide together what the IAC will need to collect, if anything, to address your collective concerns. For that part of the panel day discussion, you'll come to consensus for each application. You're in this together, but again, we've streamlined the process and you will have staff and a facilitator right there with you. When it comes to assessing the merit awards section, this you will score for a maximum score of 50, and you'll be reviewing only one narrative question. How cool is that? And no, it won't be a dissertation. It's limited in character space, and it'll be fun to see what amazing stuff our folks have done during the most insane year of their lives. You'll review by exactly what's presented. Just know that we'll be able to make very few awards and we'll be prioritizing merit funds to smaller organizations, although certainly all are eligible. Here's what it looks like in the online system. IAC diced up the merit award components into scored areas and put them in the form of questions for you to answer. For example, in this, it says, does the organization demonstrate extraordinary commitment or innovation in delivering arts experiences to Indiana citizens? To which you internally are responding, no, not really. Well, sort of. Mostly. Oh my gosh, yes, that's so impressive. And then you select the associated score with your response. It's a simple rubric that leverages your review and experience. To help you prep for panel day, if you haven't already, soon you'll receive what we call a reader sheet or application list. Understanding those conflicts of interest we talked about earlier helps us get this list to you faster. You can see in this image who has a conflict. Panelists with a conflict will not be assigned that application to the review or participate in discussion on panel day for that application. You'll see there's also a merit reader column. If you're a merit reader, that just means you'll be sharing your assessment to the group on panel day. You'll share strengths and weaknesses as it relates to the criteria. Just a few minutes, it's a small section. Then the facilitator will have the rest of the panel chime in, and then you'll all update your scores based upon the discussion. But here are some tips. First and foremost, allow plenty of time to review applications, about 45 minutes to an hour to start. And trust me, you'll get in the groove fast and it'll go a lot quicker. It just takes a little bit to get used to it. Evaluate all applications assigned to you at least 2 business days before panel. Comments are provided to applicants, albeit anonymously, so take note. And my other bigger tip is there are links available to you in the evaluation forum that give you guidance. Use them. They're short, engaging, and helpful. And always stick to the evaluation criteria and remember your implicit bias toolbox to help you. And this one is also really, really helpful. It certainly has helped me many, many times when I do this work. And that is before panel day, I so recommend reviewing the comments you made in the online system. It's amazing how quickly one forgets. Now, I want to give you some guidance for the comment section. And a pro tip, make comments relevant to the evaluation criteria. For example, as it relates to merit section, one could say, I was particularly impressed by the organization's community engagement efforts. It's clear they're responding to community input. Conversely, when providing constructive feedback, you could say, I was really impressed with the community engagement efforts, but it wasn't clear to me if an underserved community was served. Or when discussing, say, the yes with required modifications, you could recommend, like say, I recommend IAC request more information on how the organization is advancing the art form. One thing to remember is that we're all victim of thinking we're clear in an application when we're not. So be respectful with your comments and to the point and relate them to the criteria. When reviewing applications, I do want to recommend that you not overly focus on the financial information. We'll have a short video linked in the evaluation form, which will give you some great guidance on how to review the documents. We're not asking you to do some algorithmic Jedi math to determine financial viability. Just look for red flags. If you see something's concerning, let us know through your comments and discuss it with your fellow panelists on panel day. If needed, we're happy to look into your concern before panel day. Just contact us. Just remember, finances are part of the resilience equation. Arts organizations can be pretty scrappy when it comes to survival. Now, I do want to mention what we're not discussing. We are not discussing things outside the application information or the criteria. We don't always agree with what an organization does and how they do it, but we are not the arbiters of that in this process. Stick to what's in the application and to the criteria. We have other processes in place for things that defy our program and contractual requirements for state or federal funding. Let's get you prepared for panel day by giving you a snapshot of what to expect for the online panel meeting. Because you're awesome and got all your reviews done at least 2 business days before panel day, we're able to get everything pre-prepped to ensure a smooth process. On panel day, you'll meet a half an hour before the meeting's public start, where it's streamed live on YouTube for applicants or the public to observe if they wish to. There will be no contact between you and them. At this pre-meeting, we'll go over last-minute questions, meet one another, handle tech issues, and check out the summaries we put together for the panel to help ease the process. It will consist of 2 summary pages, one for the resilience section and one for merit section. When it's time to start, the facilitator will go over the process, have you introduce yourselves, and then start the resiliency review. Remember, you'll be coming to consensus here for each application. The facilitator will use the summary page to lead discussion and use the order you see on the slide as an example. The facilitator will start with the list of applications that received a unanimous yes in the pre-assessment, or green in the slide. The facilitator will simply ask the panel if they would like to discuss any concerns with any of the applications on the list. After discussion, if any, the facilitator will ask the panel if they would like to recommend the applicants for funding. Staff will note the decision for each application. Now remember, that's just for the unanimous yes, which we expect there'll probably be a lot of. The panel will then move to all unanimous no's, if any, and the facilitator and staff will move along the same lines until complete. Naturally, we expect the majority of the conversation to revolve around yes with required modifications for funding. Rest assured that staff and facilitator will be on hand to help guide discussion when needed. Once we're done with that resilience, you'll move to merit. Some panels have a lot of merit award applicants, say 15 to 20, or some just have maybe 2. For panels with a large list of applicants, the program manager may determine to have the panel only review the top 10 scoring applications. The facilitator will move the panel through the merit process before adjourning the panel. We just ask you stay a few minutes and provide some feedback of how you thought things went. And so that's it. Now, once you're done, don't forget to celebrate. You did awesome work and it's so valuable, and we really needed your support this year. So thank you. And if you have questions, and I hope you jotted them down, and definitely reach out to your program manager so that you can get the feedback and the assistance that you need. Remember, we are here to help.